Hello and welcome to another episode of Leaders of Transformation. Today's guests are actually a referral, I should give a shout out right off the bat, to Debbie Dashinger. She is the one that had introduced me to Brad and Kasey Wallis and shared a little bit about their backstory, and it just was so captivating, so fascinating that I knew we had to have them on this show and sharing about the transformation that they're creating, the transformation that they've experienced in their own life, and the transformation that they're creating in others. And so, Brad and Kasey, I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome, Leaders of Transformation.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.
And yes, thanks, Debbie, for referring us.
Yes. Brad just got off of being out in the farm for a few hours, so he didn't wear his coveralls for us, but no, we're really glad you're here and taking time, because I know how busy you are. You are in such demand, actually. So let me give people a little bit of backstory or context. Is Brad and Kasey are authors, international speakers, and workshop leaders, and they have an expertise in releasing limitations, lack, and need. They've been featured guests on over 400 media outlets such as CNN, Fox News, NBC, ABC, as well as mainstream media, radio, podcasts, and tele-summits. And they have a very unique experience, which when I first heard about it, honestly, I had to investigate it a little bit, because I thought, is this real? I don't know. You meet a lot of people that come up with, there's some interesting things. So, but in doing that, and also in getting to know them and having conversations with them, realizing that this is quite extraordinary. And so we're excited to have them here. We're excited to have you here as the listener and the viewer. And because this is why the podcast exists. We do this because we want to inspire you. We want to encourage you to create the transformation in your own life and be able to put yourself in a position where you can actually create transformation around you and be a light for other people. And I believe that this world is transformed and is transformed through love and through grace and through being who we are created to be. And so we're excited to have you here. And afterwards, any links, getting connected to Brad and Kasey, all that information will be on the leadersoftransformation.com. So you can go and check that out there. And we also ask that you leave us a rating and review on iTunes. It helps us to get a greater reach. We're in over 100 countries now, and our goal is to be able to continue to extend that reach so that people in the far-reaching areas of the world can actually get the inspiration, the encouragement that they need to be able to be the leader of transformation that they're capable of being. And so we appreciate your support with doing that. So coming back to Brad and Kasey, I gave them a very, very brief sketch. There's so much to your story that I wasn't even going to begin to reiterate it. I think it's best just to hear it from you. So talk a little bit about, what you do, what life is like for you these days, what you're up to.
Let's see. What is life like us these days, babe?
Yeah.
Huh?
Always an adventure, I have a feeling.
We were in San Francisco just a couple of days ago, and it's actually rained every day since we got back. And the farm's just been nothing but a muddy mess. So things are, first off, Nicole, thank you very much for having us here. I suffered a near-death experience over 10 years ago. And because of that, which, as you alluded to in the beginning, most people would not believe our story. It's quite overwhelming if you take the time to actually research and find out, but it's all there. It's all out there for everybody to dissect and for them to check out. I died. I was gone for 8 hours in the human existence, human experience. While I was gone, I got the opportunity to talk to a group of high energy individuals. We referred to them as Julius, since people wanted us to give them a name. Julius was the name we came up with because of a past life experience that I had with the group, where I was their teacher. I taught them. They have been human, which is a rarity amongst a lot of the people that channel. I asked them to come back with me because, to be honest with you, nobody was ever going to believe my story. In fact, to this day, my family still doesn't believe the story. They think I'm nuts. They think I'm just gone off the deep end. Kasey, who was not my wife at the time, who is my wife now, channels them back to me, and we have conversations. I go to school every day. How's that? I go to school on the human experience, on what being human is all about. Very early on, I recognized that this was something that not only I needed to learn from, but I got the fabulous idea of going worldwide and presenting it to everybody. And so now we, of course, have our farm, but we do programming all over the world, shows like yours, teach a lot of courses through our website, and my wife channels Julius.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. My daughter actually worked for Brad at the time. He had a construction company, and he had a car accident and sustained a massive brain injury. So he needed help. We were taking care of him, literally kind of taking him to and from the doctors and stuff. And he had OD'd on medication that they had given him for his brain. That's when Kimberly and I were checking up on him and found him non-responsive in his home. So I started CPR on him, and this all of this teletransportation to the hospital, and he was gone. And he woke up, and I started channeling Julius, and the doctor left the room because he thought that was the craziest thing he had ever seen in his life.
Yeah, the doctor had actually told everybody I wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
Had walked outside and told everybody to come into the room and told them that I only had a short period of time left. And so if everybody wanted to come in and say their goodbyes, boy, the minute they all walked back into the room, I shot up out of bed laughing and joking and as if nothing had ever happened. And the doctor was in absolute shock, and he's never talked to me to this day.
He's like, you scared the crap out of me is what you did. You played a joke on me. Well,
Yeah.
you know, if somebody is gone, let's look a little logistically. If somebody is gone for a certain period of time, doesn't your brain, like medical science would say that your brain shuts down, that you can only survive in that state for a certain amount of time? 8 hours.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
It is a long time. He was, they were trying to get everything out of him. They had pumped his stomach, so he was hooked up to that. They were trying to, flush his body. He was non-responsive, so he was hooked up on tubes.
And I had a brain injury.
Yeah, he already had a brain
I
injury.
already had a bruise on my brain.
Yeah, that he was really struggling with, and so the doctor had just come out and said, "Well, we'll let it run. He's probably not going to wake up, and recover from this." So I took my daughters in the room. We kind of surrounded him. I was guided to do something around him with his body, and he woke up. And I started to channel Julius, which was, for the first few years, was very strange for me. Brad
Was that the first time?
Yeah. So Brad would have to record the conversations because I didn't believe him when he would say that this group was talking to him. So he started recording it. Now I think that freaked me out even more to hear him play that back. And I was a little bit scared. And then he wanted to put me out in front of everybody. I was like, no, we are not doing that. And early on in the videos, you can see some of the early videos with me channeling Julius, and it was a challenge for me to settle into their energy. They're very strong. I was far less seamless than I am now with the channeling.
Yeah, it was like a fight, going on
Yeah.
up on the stage, in some of the early videos. Like,
Yeah.
if you realize two, maybe three people occupying one body, it was.
So I had to kind of ask them to mellow it out just a little bit. It's been over 10 years now, so we kind of have this kind of super cool agreement. We've all kind of found our space and our energy in it. And so that's the phenomenon. Trance channeling, for any of your listeners who aren't quite sure what that is where my consciousness kind of slides out of the way, kind of takes a back seat, and then Julius can utilize my body for the communication. There's all kinds of channeling. We say everybody channels, Nicole. Everybody does. Artists, musicians, writers, any inspirational thought. It's a channeling process. It's just trance channeling is a little bit different than let's say everybody does, and yet it just is. When you get into the conversation, you kind of notice it just kind of goes by the wayside as far as that opinion goes, and it works itself out pretty well.
Yeah.
So what was your background, Kasey, before showing up in the hospital and thinking that you were just going to innocently help, or even at his home, innocently help out, and you're now all of a sudden in a whole different
as a hairdresser.
Yeah.
Had a hair salon. Still have a hair salon, actually. And I had some intuitive stuff, from my childhood. That's, how that works for most of us. Our gifts develop, they shift, they develop.
I used to tell her that her clients would come in and get a haircut and get a reading all at the same time. So.
I don't know if that's
Because
true.
she was always telling them about their children, and if one of their daughters was pregnant, what the baby was going to be like, and all these things that would go on in their lives. And to some degree, they just kind of learned to accept it.
Yeah.
So
they're just all kinds of gifts. I think that the pathway to this experience with Julius was being carved out for me very young. I was blessed to have extraordinary parents that didn't discourage the crazy stuff, that I'd come out in the morning and tell them that there was a man in my room and I was talking to him. And so I was able to keep that open. Many people, especially children, when they convey to their parents that something extraordinary is going on, a lot of times they shut that down, they tell them no, and then it becomes a real struggle. But mine was not. It was just timely in my life, and I think everybody's gifts are that way for them.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay, so Julius, this is the name of this group of high energy. How would you describe Julius? High energy body, spiritual beings.
Yeah.
That is, as you said, Brad, that is teaching you and that you're learning, reminding you.
Yes.
So what? Okay, so I have to ask this question: how do you know it's real? I mean, I'm sure you get lots of people that ask that question.
You get a pretty strong sense of it as it engages itself.
Like, how do you know it's something else, not you coming up with all of this? That is.
We teach in our teachings that how something feels to you is usually a pretty good indication of whether something's right or wrong.
I get that. Yeah.
Okay. Because in the human experience, you've been gifted by yourself with emotions. And the emotions are what society tries to stifle in everyone, especially men. And at a very young age, you're told not to show your emotions. You're told not to be emotional. And yet in the ever-changing world that we all live in, emotions are starting to come to the forefront in everything. If you sit back and take a look, the emotional aspect of everything that's going on this realm of existence it's all emotional. And so we tell people, just listen to what we're saying, and if it feels good to you, you know it's true. Who is a better judge than yourself?
Yeah, or making it useful for yourself. When messages
Yeah.
are open-ended, full of possibility and love and light, they're useful in many, many situations, mostly with anything that's resistant in your life. Things that are stifling and challenging and difficult. The last thing you want to hear is more judgment, more opinion, more resistance. And so it provides that open-minded state where even your own resolution can now clearly come through to you. So Julius is very big about unleashing your empowerment. Not, they always say they're on a catch and release program. They're not on a catch and hold program. So it's a little bit different. A lot of our students have listened to all kinds of other leaders in their life. Most people do. They dabble here and there. And they find a safe place. Some come and go, some stay for a really long time, and whatever it is. But Julius will tell us that it's all inside. All your answers are inside. The altered ego blocks that for us. And unfortunately, so do other people in our lives by telling us that it's not there. And so through great conversations and open possibility, the reminding starts to happen. I know this. There's something in there. There's something that I remember. And pulling that out, just pulling that out. It is extraordinary when extraordinary conversation takes place, how you'll finally get engaged and let the altered ego sit aside and your soul steps forth.
Mm. And that's the difference between the love and the fear.
That's
fear,
correct.
yeah.
We tell people that they'll say, how do you know the difference? And we'll say, fear has a limitation to it, and love has no limit to it. Mm-hmm. And at first, sometimes that's a little challenging for them to understand. And we say, yes, but once you even initiate that deciphering, you'll be amazed at how much you can identify. You can identify it with people. You can identify it with places, even how places feel. And you can definitely identify it in aspects of your life.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I remember years ago reading an article by an atheist who said, I don't believe that God is real and I don't feel him. And having my own spiritual experience where there is a place you just feel it. You just, like you said, it's just, you know that you're not just making this up, that this is just, there's this holy place. There's this, for me, it's that Holy Spirit, which speaks to me and guides me and gives me direction. And I think that from the human experience, it's like that alter ego that we resist that. It's like we're so and that's where we're up here. We spend our time mostly up here, and we're taught to spend our time here, like in school. Most of it's all about teaching, the mechanics of it and the intellect, as opposed to in our heart. And I think that's where there's a big shift. There's a huge shift right now where people are starting to move from here to here, realizing that this is only going to get them so far, and the emptiness can only be satisfied. That void can only be satisfied, in their heart. So So let's talk with, I don't know how this works. I mean, I've seen your videos, but I don't know how this works.
On the atheist application, most people who claim themselves to be atheists are fighting against the imagery that most religions dictate.
Yes.
God-like symbolism. And we are atheists too. We do not picture God sitting on a throne with a golden crown on his or her head that is guiding or making decisions based on how they feel in the morning, or whether or not they've had a great cup of coffee and they're in a great mood. So we agree on that perception.
Yes.
When one is informed of what your soul is. So Master, your soul is the emotional processor of thought, and that is the light being that is source. So when an atheist is perhaps engaged in a conversation where they can realize that their own emotions is that state of godhood for them, and they are shown how their own creative and manifestation process is the empowerment from within, their opinion starts to soften, and begin to open the field just a little bit. We understand all of the perceptions, massive, unlimited perceptions out there as to what God's symbolism is. And we encourage everybody to get engaged with how their truth feels for them.
Awesome. Thank you. And it's interesting that, I think I was actually blessed. I became a Christian when I was 14, but I was blessed in not actually attending a regular church, where I learned it and learned my spirituality through the eyes of someone else, a human being. I just would study it and would ask and have those quiet moments, those quiet conversations to say, who are you, God? You tell me who you are and how I'm experiencing. So it gives me a different perspective that, yes, when I go into churches, and that's the reason why I didn't relate, was because I just didn't feel like that. Like you talked about when you go to a place and do you feel, what is the feeling of it? And it felt empty. It felt like the spirit was not there. And so now it's changing. There's some more and more churches that I've been to that I can feel more of that. But I think that's because of that awakening of people now saying enough of the perception, the man-made, all that stuff. We want to have a real personal relationship. And so.
We tell people churches have their place. For some people, they're never going to get beyond the church. And that's good. If you're happy there.
It's community.
If you're comfortable there. If you feel like going to church, you're fulfilled, then you know what? You give it 100% and you live the rest of your life that way. But the minute you start doubting, and the minute they can't ask or answer questions that you have, then you need to start looking elsewhere, because that's your own inner self explaining to you and showing to you that there's something else outside of you that is available.
Things in culture, Master, define you from your exterior. And we love to have our students embrace the notion of the white room theory. The white room theory, Master, is if you found yourself sitting in a white room with no windows, no doors, and no mirrors, how would you know who you were? Okay? And most embodiments will say back to us, well, I don't know. And we say, yes, perhaps that is the answer that you seek. And the answer, Master, of course, would be how you feel is who you are. How you feel about thoughts, for you will always process thought, Master. It is an impossibility to not process thought. You do not need to have a brain to process thought. And the way you feel about your perceived thoughts, Master, is your identity from within. Once somebody embraces even the possibility of that notion and they embark on that journey inward, it can seem a very foreign place. And yet, every path stone along the journey is an aspect of joy and happiness in self-discovery. And that is a good place to be.
You use the word master. Tell us about that. You're describing.
You are the master of your experience. Your thoughts and your emotions create your experience. That is a truth. Your reality is based on your perception, and no two embodiments have the same. That's how this Earthship is a hologram. It is in response to how you perceive what your truth is. And so all of you are the masters of your experience.
Got it. Thank you. So what is the... I actually jotted down some questions here. What is the difference? I know that manifestation is something that is talked about a lot more these days. Why is it that some appear to be able to manifest what they want in life?
Master, you are always manifesting. Your whole life. You have created. That is fantastic, because manifestation is not elusive to you. Conscious awareness manifestation may be elusive to you, and that's the journey of remembering. That's the journey. We will guarantee you, Master, that absolutely everything in your life is exactly what you know. That is a truth. It is an energetic reflection of who you are. And unfortunately, it usually displays a lot of limitation for people in their thoughts and their perceptions.
Yeah, most human beings, we also give an analogy where if you stood in front of a mirror and you were able to ask yourself certain questions throughout your life, what questions would you ask yourself and answer yourself? And most people would say, well, that's absolutely absurd. You can't do that. Well, we believe that that's not absurd, but that's theoretically what you're doing anyway, is because this realm is a hologram or illusion, you're literally talking to yourself on a daily basis. You're just not listening.
So the manifestation process is something you are doing all the time, all the time. Once human beings become aware of this, it usually is good news, because then the intentional aspect is not far away. Conscious journey simply means, Master, that you choose your thoughts. You become aware of your thoughts. Most human beings walk around, they have no idea what they're thinking about. You ask them, what are you thinking about? Nothing. And that is not a truth. They're always thinking. They're just not aware of it. So their life becomes haphazard, chaotic, unpredictable, and reactive. When we help another learn to focus on their thoughts, choose their thoughts, Master. You may choose any thought that you desire. Get that frequency engaged to initiate a knowing. Just like you know all of your previous thoughts, you will be amazed at what can show up. For everything in your life, Master, shows up the moment you know it. Belief system is conjectural to knowing. It's like a cheerleader that tries to get you to the feeling of a knowing. A lot of human beings think that once something shows up, then they know it. And we said, no. It was that second that you knew it, that it showed up. So then they start to practice, and they start to practice, and they trip and they fall and they stumble along the way. But there's usually enough evidence that they can do it. Things start to change. Things start to appear, and joy and happiness occurs. And we say, keep going. And they find their rhythm. They find their rhythm between thought and emotion. Thought and emotion. And it comes and brings itself right into the point of the launching of now, and your experience unfolds in front of you. Joy and compassion becomes the result, because once you discover your empowerment, Master, you realize everyone else has it too. And honoring takes place. An unleashment of recognition is the experience. And then love is all about.
Thank you. Well, it's interesting that you talk about the awareness and making that choice to be aware. What about, because I've worked as a coach, I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, and some of them are doing great and they want to take their business next level. Others are struggling, and they're struggling with, and just even human, like just in their own personal lives, because you know how they're struggling here, they're likely struggling.
Are struggling in their own lives.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Unhealed healers.
Oh, yes.
Number one problem, okay, is you cannot teach or awaken what you do not know yourself. So that's one of the missteps. But the truth is, Master, that human embodiments mostly live in previous. Their altered ego gobbles up the realm of possibility for themselves and vomits back onto them their limitation. And they grab hold of it. It's familiar. It played itself out before. And their manifestation is so magnificent that they are always right.
And
yes,
right.
The other dilemma is there's very little new. It's all the same. Everyone practices or repeats the same thing over and over and over again. We try to teach people to expand the way you think.
Go for the new stuff.
Expand the way you teach. Expand the way you coach. Do something absolutely outrageous. The successful people in life are always charting their own course. Somebody else's course is not your course. We want to empower you you are a very powerful being. There's two things human beings are afraid of: how powerful they are and that they could possibly die.
Yeah.
Okay?
So, Master, what's interesting is this. The human brain is only activated on average between 3 and 5% among human embodiments, but it's the same 3 to 5%. That means you all think the same. You all accept low frequency thoughts associated with fear. And the way you know this, Master, is if you are aging, then you are dominated by fear-based thoughts. You know, your physical embodiment was never designed to erode. Your circulatory system is set up to constantly be revitalizing your embodiment on a cellular level through high frequency thought engagement through your sacrum fluid. And that is an ongoing state. So when you first came to this realm, you designed this fantastic system where your little pituitary gland would take in a thought, shoot it to the pineal gland, and simultaneously, your emotions grab it and feel a certain way about it. That then is shot through your midbrain to the rear cerebellum and down your circulatory system, and it is fed throughout your whole body as a frequency current. High frequency current actually puts a reverse nucleonic spin on your whole body at a cellular level and heals, rejuvenates, and restores. Fear-based thoughts erode you. You are the first thing that is manifested from your thoughts. You are thought actualized, walking around. When we tell people grab a new thought, they don't even know how to do that. I don't even know where those thoughts are. I don't even know how to grab that concept. So as we teach the ability to do that, Master, something phenomenal takes place. Your brain starts to wake up. If you were going to slice your brain in half, you would discover that there are different concentrations of water in the brain. And that is because water is the conduit for electricity. And it gets woken up by high frequency thoughts. You literally can ignite genius for yourself if you just start thinking thoughts that you have never, ever conceived before. This is how we worked on the injury component for his brain. The injury was so deep and so scarred over, all we needed to do was wake up dormant parts and he's good to go. And that was a far easier task than the arduous task of reparative for dead tissue aspect. We're like, you know how much tissue you have that's just asleep? Okay? As this occurs, Master, like you said, the thoughts that come in are unbelievable, but then human beings have to have the bravery to walk through the thought. That becomes a whole nother remembering process, but it is worth the effort, because that's where everything shifts into the extraordinary for you, Master. And anybody who isn't living that potential is living a life of fear and repetitive thought. And you can stay there for as long as you like. You must enjoy it because you're choosing that, or you're not. But even these indications of possibility should inspire you.
When you said that you're enjoying it, and it's so interesting because I've talked to people that want to make a change, but they're still in the automatic. And it's like, well, how is that serving you? Somehow it is serving you because it's almost like they enjoy the suffering. I've been there. You know, there's been times where it's like, I feel like, yeah, there's this, you know, how do you get out of that?
That word, want.
Yes.
Want.
Is really lack.
Analyze that word. It's a constant state.
It's a state of being.
Want.
Not doing.
It's not doing. It's wanting. And
it's kind of like try then.
It's wanting.
It's desire and choosing, Master. It's desire and choosing. But the truth is that most physical embodiments quite enjoy their victimhood because it excuses everything out of their life for them, and it definitively identifies them. They love it because they wouldn't be doing it if they didn't. Nobody chooses that for them. They do. Now, once they get past being pissed off after we tell them that, we usually the best news we could tell you, because that means you get to change it. You get to change it, in order to discover your empowerment, master. And that's where your joy resides. Then they get themselves up and they wipe their bloody kneecaps off and they're ready. And we say, when you have had your guts full of being disempowered, you will stand up, brush yourself off, and move. And we will be there to aid you on your remembrance process. But if you enjoy your victimhood, go ahead. Have fun with it. Be completely disempowered until you're done. And when you are done, we are here. And while you are in your disempowered and victimhood state, you are safe, because all souls are.
Mm. So you mentioned that most people don't know, like they're like, I don't know how to think a new thought because I've never thought those thoughts before. How do you engage that? Is through questioning or through grounding, meditation? Yeah.
Great conversation. Have you ever had a conversation about a white galaxy, Master? Have you ever had a conversation about fractal existence among the hologram? Have you ever had a conversation between the difference between the soul and the spirit? These are stimulating, mind-stimulating conversations. Have you ever talked about the depths and the realms that you're sitting inside of right now? That they aren't on the sides of you. You're in the center of all of them. Okay? Nobody initiates spectacular conversation with each other. Have you ever looked inside of a tree? Really looked inside of a tree. Okay? But human beings think that these are frivolities and that they are useless. And we say that's because you have been taught incorrectly. All things in society are designed to keep you disempowered, Master. That way you can be controlled. Okay? But for students who come that have never had these experiences, we nurse them gently. We harness them and we honor them through the possibilities of unleashing thought that they've never even dared to tackle before. And sometimes they're very uncomfortable, and we love that. But we will tell you that you'll get a headache listening to the conversation.
Sometimes it hurts.
As your brain starts to wake up, and we're perfectly delighted with that as well.
So can everybody do this? I mean, this is great for you and Brad, you know, that you can channel and you can have this conversation with Julius. What about other people? They're saying, okay, this is great, but I want to be able to have that for myself. We've been talking about it, but what are some of the ways, if somebody's listening right now and they say, okay, so
stop judging yourself.
Stop judging. Yes.
And everyone else who does it, Master. And do not compare yourself. You will not do it this way. You will do it your way. Okay? Judgment is the block for everything in your life, Master. Everything. Mostly judgment of thought, not of other people. That's way down the ladder. Judgment of thought. Once you start opening this up, all of your intuitiveness comes. It's like a floodgate, and you can't turn it off. You have crazy dreams. You have crazy encounters. Abundance hits you in all aspects of your life, and you know you're happy. You're happy because it's new, it's fresh, and the frequency of it is undeniable. Although human beings don't know how to not judge, so we teach them that as well.
I wanted to add to a comment that Julius just made about abundance coming in all aspects of your life. When you made the comment earlier about manifestation, and some people can manifest and some people kind of hit a wall, you understand that part of the dilemma with manifestation is you get all of it, no matter what. It's just that you can't accept all of it, or you don't want all of it.
Well, you don't like the demonstration of who you are back to yourself.
The universe delivers to you exactly what it is that you're asking. So when you ask for abundance, you get all abundance. And if your life is in lack, you're going to be abundantly lacking in everything that's going on in your life. We try to get you to think differently.
It's kind of like, Master, the bicycle without the training wheels for the first time. And it's very, very frustrating for some. And you know, some give up and they go back and they never get past the training wheels, and we bless them on their journey. We say, we'll see you next time around when you're ready to get those things off.
Yeah.
But when you're ready, and it's okay for you to fall and to stumble, because you know what's waiting. Tour de France is waiting for you. And it's that extraordinary that far outweighs some of the bumps and bruises. In fact, you actually get to a point where you appreciate the bumps and bruises because they allow you to appreciate the Tour de France. And that again helps to release the judgment of your own journey, master, and everything opens up. Everything opens up. And we hope you are inspired to know how powerful you are.
Oh, wow. This has been awesome. Of course, this opens up and it expands the, the conversation and say, oh, there's so many questions, there's so many things that we can ask. How do people find out more about the work that you do, and the workshops and yeah?
You can go to expandwithjulius.com, and on that website, which is one of 3, it's loaded. It's got over 400 courses. It's got tutorials. It's got videos. It's got all kinds of information that is just jam-packed in this little powerful website.
Yeah.
That's expandwithjulius.com.
You can also come and visit us. We have a wonderful retreat facility. You can have intensives or weekends with us. We have a wonderful healing program called Our Factory. Perhaps we should talk about that another time. And so we try to make ourselves available for everybody the best way that we can. So come visit us. And as you said, you also have a free gift.
Oh, yes. Thank you. So, it's interesting. Yeah. Because you just mentioned about the R Factory and the what you were saying earlier, about healing and the way our body is designed. It's so funny. This is kind of like, we'll have to have this, we'll have a conversation separately about that later, but it's so interesting because I look at our body and it's like, our body is designed to regenerate.
Yes.
So that doesn't make sense that it would break down if you provide the right resource. And this has always been, it's funny because even like our teeth, I've had people say, of course, it's the common knowledge, right? Human knowledge is saying is your teeth don't regenerate, right? You get a cavity and it's just that way all the time. And ever since I've been a child, I thought, that doesn't make sense. Why would there be one thing in our body that doesn't regenerate and everything else does, especially if it's so very important? So there's so much that we don't know or that we don't remember, right? Yes.
You're led astray. How's that?
Yes. Yes. We're so limited.
See, they want to keep you limited. They want to keep you wanting, needing, all of these things in your life that you need.
Yes.
These new children that are being born in today's world do not need.
Yeah.
Some of their brains do not have 2 hemispheres anymore, Master. They're fused in the center because they're bypassing division in their identity and coming to whole aspect of the truth of who they are. It is extraordinary.
Science knows this.
And your own physical body can end up doing that as well once you reach a high enough conscious state. But you are correct. Teeth, as well as eyelashes, as well as anything on your physical embodiment, either rejuvenate or decay collectively at the same rate. So as you work on your massive frequency increase consciously, you will feel well and restored.
Thank you. Thank you, Julius. Thank you, Kasey. Thank you, Brad, for being here and sharing a taste of what the possibilities are. You mentioned in the beginning, you said it's about opening up possibilities, and you opened up tremendous possibilities here today. We're so grateful. I've learned so much, and I know there's so much more to learn. We're just getting started. So thank you so very much.
Thanks.
What's that?
I said we just got started.
We just got started, and it's like, oh, this is awesome. So for everyone listening, go to expandwithjulius.com. You know what? Investigate. look and search and learn and be open. No judgment. I love what you said there, that, the judgment is the real issue, where we have to stop judging ourselves. I remember reading a book, and there was something in there that said, what if you would not judge anything that occurred today? Right. And I closed the book and I thought, if I just take that from the book and start to apply that, wow, what a thought, what an expansive thought to consider, that it's not even like, oh, it's sunny out, that's good. It's raining, it's bad. Well, who says?
Just
right?
Is. Yeah, just is.
It just is. So you get me excited. But thank you so very much. I appreciate you both. And you make a huge difference. I know you're making a huge impact in people's lives and opening up the possibilities for them. So thank you so much. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. I know that if you are still listening to us here, that this has expanded you, something to consider the possibilities, and start to ask those questions and have conversations, expansive conversations. Just start there. Questions like looking at a tree, the inside of a tree, and things that we take for granted. There's so much around us that we take for granted. We're so on automatic. To get off that automatic and start to explore. So I encourage you to do that today, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Leaders of Transformation real soon.